Now here's something I picked up at a recent train show. The microengineering Transworld truck terminal. Looks quite nice. It kind of reminds me of a Pikestuff model, or very similar to that. Let's have a look what's inside. Very nice looking model in an extremely efficient and frugal box. I mean, you compare that to the Walthers boxes, this is tiny. And opening up, we have some nice blue and grey and brown moulded parts. A bit of plastic, I'm guessing, for the windows. It's quite thin. I'm really not sure what they are. They look like metal weights of some kind. And instructions. Looks like you just get the one sheet. Right. Well, let's start taking things off the sprue, filing them down and putting it together and see what we get. Okay, so I've taken the time and cut away all the flash or swarf and sanded down the pieces of plastic, and I still have an issue. If you look at the doors, it seems to be a very thin film of plastic there, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to cut that away. It seems to be at the bottom of the doors because the rest of the door edges are actually quite thick. And also, if you can probably see on that one, I've overcut that with my very sharp cutters, and there's a tiny indentation which you will actually see because the doors in this case fit on the outside, so I'm going to have to pick the best doors to fit on this. In terms of the colour, it really does remind me of Pikestuff. I really like the blue colour, and I really like the greyish colour. So I don't think it will need a lot of painting, maybe a little bit of weathering, and it will look pretty good. And one more thing to note, they've taken a lot of time on this to add press outs or cutouts for extra doors, and especially you can see there, and that's a very, very nice detail. So you can effectively change this, and it doesn't have to be the way it's represented on the picture. You can actually make it look quite different. So more doors, more windows, really, really nice. That's an excellent detail, so well done microengineering, it's quite good. Okay, so here's the first issue. On the two sides, I'm going to use the minimal amount of windows and doors because I think it looks more warehousey. As this one is perfectly straight because it's got nothing on it, it's just a piece of plastic. This one, it's quite hard to see, it's actually slightly curved, and when I line it up to the concrete base, it doesn't quite line up. There's a gap there, so I'm going to very carefully file that down straight. Whereas when you apply the same concrete base to the other side, it fits perfectly as you would expect. Plus there's a little bit of extra concrete there that might have to be cut off. So I shall carefully, very carefully file this down, and hopefully it will fit this exactly. Okay, as I did explain on this channel, I do make mistakes, and I've made a mistake here. So if you look carefully, that double line there is actually the side of this plastic here. So effectively I've moved stuff around a little bit. Luckily I use very weak or very watery cement, so it's very easy to change things. So what I've actually done now, I've moved that to be straight on one side there, and a little gap there, and that seems to fit. So I've done exactly the same with this piece, so that's kind of straight there, little gap there, and then what I'm guessing is these pieces here will fit exactly like that, and that should do it. Okay, after the small changes made, it actually looks a lot better. I'm thinking of putting some decals on these doors here to make them look a bit more interesting. I've got these old Southern Pacific shunter, well, should I say, switcher transfers from Microscale, and Microscale are really good. I've got loads of these for different engines and things, and I picked them up really cheap at a trade show. So I'm thinking of using these ones on these doors here, probably like for the top half of the door because they won't exactly fit, or I might just try and use these just to give it a bit of interest. I'm not sure if it's how it's going to turn out, but I'll give it a go. Another area where I fouled up is I did cut away those strange very thin plastic lips, only to find, if I have read the instructions properly, that they're to support these little things. They're like little steps. I still might be able to glue them on, but that's what they were there for, so they did actually have a purpose. So that's what happens when you don't properly read the instructions. So the little platforms and the decals have gone on. I think one platform has moved, that will be redone. Then I noticed that the decal stripes are actually around, some of them around the wrong way, but it really doesn't matter. It still looks pretty cool. Okay, so that's done. All the little platforms are on. Actually looks quite good, and it's glued together. Now we have 3 more bits to glue together. You can choose to add more doors and windows, but I don't want to on this one. That simply attaches to here. Then the roofs go on. Okay, so I'll just remove these to show you what has happened. So basically that bit looks alright, but this bit doesn't quite look straight, and as a result that's affecting the roof. So I think I need to do something about that. It actually should be, it looks like it should be about there. So I'm not sure how I'm going to deal with that, or I could maybe try and put it on the other side. And because I use the thin glue and that can be cleaned up, it's very easy to change stuff around. Let's have a look if it's better on the other side. It looks a little bit better on that side. I had to use little fillets to fill in the gaps here. You can kind of see where I did it there. That can be sanded down so you don't see it. But the main thing about this model, as much as I like it, and I do like it, I like the colours, the detail. With micro engineering you also get a lot of swarf and flash, but that's fine. But unlike, you know, the very traditional European models that we get, like, you know, Fala, or probably the better ones are Volma and Kiwi, these models are like absolutely top notch. I mean, the Walthers models are very good, but those ones are probably the best ever. They produce guides, little bits of plastic, so you can't really get the placement wrong, whereas with this you're literally sticking that onto there and you could misstick it. So I do have an issue with that. Second issue is there's no guide here, probably because it's 3 pieces of the same mould. There's no guide there for the roof, so consequently when you're putting the roof on here, this bit is unsupported and it can slip down, so that's not very good. So I think the only way I can do it is by putting a bit of masking tape on there, and put a little bit of masking tape on this bit of roof, and it really helps the placement. So I'm going to try and line this up again, try and get the roof on, and then see if it's a bit straighter. Might be a bit better this way, but this has to be absolutely square, and I can see that it isn't. And I know you can buy these really cool little magnetic gadgets to get the corners really square, and I think I really have to invest in one of those. I don't know what they're called, but see, that doesn't look right. That looks about right. That doesn't look right. So I have to somehow see what I can do about that. I don't know if you can actually see that. So like that. That looks like it's going in a bit. And on a good quality model, you shouldn't have that problem. I know as I said on my channel, I'm certainly not the world's best model builder. In fact, I'm the average but you should not have that problem. Second thing, and they tell you to sand these down to get an angle, but again, you can have the old open roof problem where you have a line against the roof and they don't give you a bit of plastic as a roof ridge. What they do give you are these two curious little metal things that actually sit on the ridge. Maybe that's just to hold it closed. That could make sense, but I need to sort of see if I can sort this alignment problem out first, and then I can come back to it. And here's the really puzzling thing. So if I line up against the squares on the cutting mat, they actually more or less line up pretty well. It's not obviously off like that. You can see that they kind of line up fairly well. So I'm really not sure what is going on there. Okay, so after quite a lot of messing about, which I wouldn't have expected, I've actually completed this. So some things to note: you need to paint these metal bits on the top. No matter how you try, you still get a small gap at the top on the roof. I have tried filing it down. Look at the state of my file, but you still get the gap, so I might have to do something about that. Overall looks pretty good. I quite like it. I didn't like the fact that I really had to mess about with the edges to get it to work. The supplied window material, which is this stuff, obviously it's not polystyrene, so it's not going to stick with polystyrene cement. You need to stick it on with something else. I think I'll just try and replace the door window glass bits with polystyrene. But apart from that, it's quite a neat model. It was surprisingly tricky to put together. I would not have expected that, but there you go. So that can influence your decision whether to buy it or not. I might try a Pikestuff kit next and see if it's any different. I mean, it's a lovely looking piece. It looks very modern. It's going to look great on the layout with some trucks in front of it. You get some extra bits, you get some steps, and a bit of pavement, which I might use, but there we go, it's done. So here it is, finished up. I'll turn this around so you can have a look. I've added some little bits and pieces that were in the kit. Yeah, doesn't look too bad at all.